Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Kim the Introvert, and in today's video we're going to talk about the realities of unemployment. So as a quick backstory, I was laid off back in November of 2023. I was with my previous employer for 5 years. I started as an admin assistant, moved into office management, and then finally became a project manager, and that's where I landed, and then I was eventually cut. I did make a video about what my experience was like being laid off from a job, and also a 2-month update of how things were going for me post that initial life shakeup and life-changing event of being laid off. And I will either link those down in the description box or put a little card up top that you can click on so that you can see my background and how things are going. My initial laid off video just talks about the company I worked for, and then the whole process of me being laid off and how I knew it was coming and what I immediately did right afterwards. And then my 2-month update video just talks about my daily routine, my pros and cons, where I am mentally, and of course the job hunt, because that is a job within itself. And I want to make it very clear that this is a disclaimer, okay? I'm not telling you to collect or forego unemployment. This video is strictly informational and it's based on what I've been going through. Everyone's experience is going to be different based on what state they live in. I am currently in the state of Texas, so Texas is where I will be drawing my reference from. I don't know how unemployment works in every single state, and I can't make any promises, but I can tell you that unemployment is pretty similar across the board, but there will be some nuances and some differences and some requirements that will be different from state to state. Disclaimer over. So like I said previously in my disclaimer, this is going to be strictly informational video, and it's going to be in multiple parts because of all the information I've acquired over the past couple months and things that I feel like are important to note so that people understand and know what's going on and what to expect if they ever see themselves in this exact predicament. So the first thing that you need to know is you have to file for unemployment. And why that's so important for you to know is it's not that once you're no longer employed that a check is going to just magically appear because you're unemployed. You have to go to your state's unemployment website and file for unemployment. You have to fill out paperwork. You have to send them the correct documents that they're requiring. You need to let the state know that you are now unemployed and that you would like to collect unemployment. And you have to do that through either website or call them. But either way, you have to actually apply and file for unemployment. It's not going to be something that automatically happens once you no longer are employed. The next thing you need to know is it's not free money. So a lot of people think that the money that is given to people who are unemployed comes out of their working tax dollars. That's not how it works. So what I actually found out, because I asked questions when I was laid off with my HR department, I had a whole exit interview. Again, link up above of all the things I did when I was laid off and all the steps I took that I feel like set me up for success into my whole unemployment phase of life. Hopefully it's short. It's not free money. And where the money actually comes from is your employer, while they have you as an employee, they pay into unemployment for the state that you live in. So for example, I was employed by a company in California. And because I live in Texas, the company in California that I was employed by paid into Texas unemployment because that's where I live. So it's kind of an insurance policy so that if you are unemployed and you qualify for unemployment, they already paid the money that you are now owed or have the right to as someone who wants to collect unemployment. So it is not free money. It's not coming out of your tax dollars. You're thinking of welfare. Unemployment is completely different. It is literally coming from the employers. So that's how unemployment works. A lot of people are so ill-informed and misinformed, and I just feel like that needs to be said because I don't think people really understand how unemployment works. Another thing that's very important to know, you have to request the money. So this is different from filing for unemployment. So once you file for unemployment and you get your letter stating that you are eligible for benefits, because they will send you a letter, at least in Texas they do. They send you a letter letting you know if you either are approved or denied. I think they'll tell you why you're denied, but if you want to appeal a denial, you have the right to. So they let you know that also. But just like I said earlier, you do have to file for unemployment. The payments don't automatically start coming. Once you are approved, they will give you the date that you need to request payment. So when that date comes, you need to go ahead to the website and follow the instructions on how to request payment. So don't think that just because you filed for unemployment, now money will magically just appear in your account. No, you have to request payment and you have to continue to request it. So my requesting period is every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, I have to request my payment and I have to wait to see if they're going to approve it or deny it. And it's not guaranteed on what day of the week it's going to appear on. So it's completely different from when you were getting paid every 2 weeks on Friday. It's not like that. It's very different. And there are so many reasons as to why you may not get as much as you previously did. You may get more. It may come on a Tuesday one time. You might get paid on a Thursday the next time. It's just, there's so many reasons as to why it varies. But just know that you have to actually request the money in order to receive the money. Okay? Remember that. That's something I didn't know. So here's another thing that is so important that is not talked about. I feel like it's not talked about at all. In order to be eligible to collect unemployment, you have to meet weekly requirements. So everyone's weekly requirement might be different. For example, me, I have to meet 3 weekly requirements a week. That is kept on a log. There is a PDF log that I have to fill out every single week that states what I did that meets the requirements that are expected of me in order to be eligible of unemployment. So example of that would be job searching. So whether that be physically going out there and walking into businesses and looking for a job, going on platforms like Indeed or Monster.com and looking for jobs, applying to jobs, filling out applications, going to job fairs, going to trade school. There's seminars you can attend that can count for your weekly requirement. There's also like online Zoom classes or e-learning classes that you can take that count towards the requirement. There's a long list of things that meet that requirement. You just have to make sure that you read the correct list for your state so that you are in adherence to their policy. And again, every state's going to be different and everyone's going to have a different requirement as to how many responsibilities that they're required to do per week. Now, just because I'm required to do 3 doesn't mean I only do 3. You can do as many as you want to, especially if you actually want to get another job. And if you watch my previous video, the 2-month update, you'll see that doing 3 job requirements a week is not enough. It's not enough, okay? And for people who have been unemployed for a long period of time, they will tell you only doing 3 job applications a week is not enough. These days, you have to fill out 20, 50, 100, 200 job applications just to hear from one person. That's just how it is now. The job market is not booming like it used to. It's no longer in the employee's favor. It is now shifted to the employer's favor. And we are now left out trying to get a job and no one will hire us. Again, I go over all this in my video on my 2-month update. So check that video out because it gives a lot of insight about what I've learned and kind of what to expect if you're just now getting into this unemployment journey. So I really do recommend checking that out because it gives a realistic view into what may or may not happen to you. And also check the comments on that video because there are a lot of other people going through the same thing of various industries and various ages. So it lets you know kind of what the job landscape is doing right now and what it's looking like. I'm going to go on to the next tip. So, like I said previously, you have to do required job searches. This is all linked together. So when you go to request payment, one of the questions, at least for Texas, one of the questions is, how many requirements did you do for the week of whatever that week is, and how many did you do for the week of whatever that week is? Because again, every 2 weeks, so it's like a 2-week pay period. So for 1 week and 2 weeks, how many requirements did you do? You need to fill in how many did you do. Did you do 3? Did you do 4? Did you do 10? Did you do 25? Let them know. They are not going to ask you in that moment to prove that you did that. That's why this next tip is very important. Make sure you document everything. Document every single requirement that meets the job requirements for eligibility. So the PDF that I showed earlier, that's going to be the document that you use to reference that you met the weekly requirement. And like I said earlier, they're not going to ask you right in the moment. However, they can come back 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. Actually, question mark. I'm gonna put question mark. They can come back in the future and ask,
hey, so remember that time in 2020 whatever that you clicked unemployment and you said that you did 5 unemployment requirements? Can we see that?
And you need to be able to prove that you did what you said you did. You need to show that, and the easiest way to show that is to give them the PDF document that you kept originally. Now, if you can also supplement that with emails and text messages and like screenshots, things like that, confirmations. Some businesses or some companies will send a denial letter letting you know that, thank you for applying to our company, but unfortunately at this time you weren't, we are deciding to go into a different direction and we have decided to choose another candidate, but thank you so much for your consideration. Stuff like that. So save all of that, because they can come back, unemployment can come back and ask for proof that you actually did do the requirement that made you eligible for that pay period. If you don't have adequate proof that you were doing what you were supposed to be doing during that time, they can request all of the money back from that pay period. So for example, let's take March 1st through the 14th. Let's say March 1st through the 7th, you met all the requirements, you did 4 job requirements and you noted that on your PDF. And then for the 8th through the 14th, you said you did 6. Okay, great. They're not going to ask you right then and there. And you request your payment and then you get your $1,200. You can pay your bills now, yay. And then fast forward 6 months later, they're gonna ask, hey, remember when you said you did those job requirements between March 1st and March 14th? Yeah, can we see those? And if you can't provide that information, that proof that you actually did complete the requirements, they're gonna ask for all $1,200 of those dollars back. So note everything, make sure that you have everything on file, that you have screenshots, emails, printouts, whatever. If someone texts you about a job, go ahead and keep those text messages. Just make sure that you have proof that, hey, I was totally doing what I was supposed to be doing. You ain't getting this money back because you gave it to me and I did what I was supposed to do. Anyway, but yes, just make sure that you always have notes and proof that you did meet all of the requirements that you need to do. And something I learned from experience is, this is another tip, you can get overpaid. They can overpay you. I didn't freak out when I got a letter. I believe I got a letter and I got a digital notification in my profile on the unemployment website. They let me know that, hey, you were overpaid and you need to pay us back. So I didn't freak out because I had the money to give back, so I wasn't worried about it. But I read the bottom of the letter, and the letter at the bottom, please read the whole letter. This is very important. I never physically paid them back. At the bottom of the letter, it let me know that all payments requested from this time forward will go towards the balance that you owe. Once the balance is paid off, you will be able to actually collect the money again. And I was like, oh, that's totally fine. So that's the option I took. Could I just pay them all up front? Sure, I could have done that. But to be completely honest, it was way easier to request payment and instead of receiving the payment, have it automatically go to the balance that I owed and then pay it off that way. So it didn't feel like I was giving up any money. I actually appreciate that they gave that as an option instead of them going back and snatching out of your account, because you know it's the government. The government can do that. So I did take that option. I just felt like it was a better option and it was honestly easier, and I didn't feel like I was missing the money, and it was paid off and we're all good. Something else you should know, there is a cap for how long you can collect unemployment. So it varies from state to state. Most states is 26 weeks, which if you work that out, 26 weeks, there's 52 weeks in a year, half of 52 is 26. So you can collect unemployment for up to 6 months, which is a long time. But honestly, it sounds like a long time, but it's not, because some people have been unemployed for more than 6 months because they just can't get a job in the market that they are trained in. So yes, make sure you check on what's the maximum time that you can collect unemployment is in your state. Some states it's as low as 13 weeks. Again, if you do that math, that is 3 months and a week. That's it. If you are still unemployed after that time, you can file for an extension. I don't know what the process is because again, I haven't maxed out my time, and I also don't know if every state offers an extension. I don't know how long the extension is. I don't know if how much you get changes. I don't know how it works. There are options to extend your unemployment if you get to the point where you're unemployed or underemployed and you still haven't found a job that gives you a livable wage. So just keep that in mind. Here's just a little tip that isn't neither here nor there, but it'll help more so your mental. So basically, when you file for unemployment, part of the documents ask, how would you like to receive your payments? And I highly recommend receiving your payments in the way that you were being paid when you were employed. So when I was previously employed, I was receiving my payments via direct deposit. So that's what I chose. I chose direct deposit. In Texas, there's a little card that they can give you where the money goes on the card and you use the money off of the card. I did not want that. I wanted to just go ahead and just continue on with direct deposit. The reason why I highly recommend that is, number one, it'll keep some normalcy and stability in your daily routine. If you've been in a job for years and then all of a sudden it ends, it really shakes up your life, your day, your mental health, everything. It really causes a really big shakeup because in America, we just commit so much of our time to our jobs. So when the job is no longer there, there's a big gaping hole in our life of just emptiness and like, what's next? Basically, now what do I do? There's so much I was giving to this job. What do I do now? So to maintain that normalcy, I would suggest that when you opt for how you would like to receive your payments, to continue receiving your payments in the way that you were when you were employed. It really does help your mental health. It really does. Just keeping something normal, because it just makes it feel like, okay, yep, I'm familiar with this. This is how my life has been. It keeps you from feeling like there's too much change going on, and it just keeps you on track. Honestly, just mentally just keeps you on track. The other reason why I say that is if you were getting direct deposit previously, you want to continue getting direct deposit because everyone's bank has different requirements. And you want to look into these requirements, because if you've been with a bank for years and years and years, you forget what the requirements are after like the first year. So some banks will have it where you're required to keep a certain balance in your bank account. They'll have it where you're required to do so many direct deposits within a time period. So just to make sure you are keeping up with the requirements of your bank, you want to make sure that you don't do anything too drastically different. Check what the requirements are for your bank account to see if there's anything that you need to be aware of. Every single dollar becomes so precious at this time. So the last thing you want is a penalty fee from your bank account because you don't meet the requirements that you agreed to when you were making a constant living and you were getting paid on the regular. So please look into what the requirements are for your bank to make sure that you adhere to their policies. You just, it's not the time for people to be snatching money about your account. It really isn't. So just remember that. Another thing is something that I wish I knew before, but I mean, I know it now, but I feel like it needs to be said. How much you make on unemployment or how much you're paid out on unemployment is based on a percentage. And I believe the percentage comes from how, oh God, it's complicated. Okay. The percentage comes from how much you made from your previous employer during a specific time period. It's not like, oh, I'm going to get 80% of what I used to make from January to November. It's not how it works. There's these formulas and calculations that the state does to figure out how they're going to pay you and how much they're going to pay you. So not everyone receives the same amount on unemployment. It varies depending on how your state does it. Here in the state of Texas, it is percentage wise, and it's based on how much you made during a certain time period from that previous employer. So I guess get the highest paying job possible. Get the highest paying job possible, get laid off from that job so you can get the most amount of money in unemployment. Dumb advice. But that's basically how it works though. And again, make sure you look into how they calculate how much you make on unemployment because it varies on person to person, and that's why when you Google how much will I make on unemployment, you won't really get a definite answer because you have to calculate some things and punch some numbers. It's definitely doable, but you won't get a definitive answer from your friend who's on unemployment or Google. You just won't, because it's just not how it works. My last tip for you today is if while you are filling out the digital documents on your state's unemployment website, if you do not have the correct documentation or the information that they're looking for, call them. Please call them. I should have called, but I didn't. There's a piece of documentation that I just didn't have at the time. I have it now, but at the time I didn't have it and I needed it for the documentation. And this, actually, I'll just go ahead and be very specific because people from Texas might be watching this. If you're in Texas and you are now filing for unemployment, you need to have a Texas ID or driver's license in order to fill out the paperwork. It is required on the digital paperwork to have a Texas ID or driver's license. Now, Reddit, if you go to Reddit, because like I did, you'll see that people are saying it's not required. They didn't have to put anything in there. They totally changed it. I think post Ponderosa, they changed the requirements. They made it so that you have to put a number in that box in order to move forward with the documents. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know what else to do, so I literally put my passport information because at the time I didn't have a valid Texas ID or driver's license. I'm going to make a video telling you how to get that, but it'll explain why at the time I didn't have one, and it's very valid. It's very valid. If you've ever been new to Texas and you had to get a driver's license, or if you had to renew your driver's license in Texas, you know why. Post panoramic, you know exactly why it's difficult to get a driver's license in Texas. So again, I'll have another video about that to explain so that people can understand and go through it. Whatever, that's not what this video is about. But yes, if you do not have the correct documents or information for the electronic or the documents that's on the computer when you're filling out the unemployment, call them. Someone on the phone can resolve what you're stuck on very quickly because they can bypass all kind of stuff. They can point you in the right direction. They can give you the correct information. They can get you to the right department. It can be a little tricky to get someone on the phone. It can be a long wait to get someone on the phone, but you're unemployed, so you got time. Just know that it's okay to call them. If you want to call to do the whole process, that's totally fine, because there were things where I was like, now what does this mean? Now what is this? What is that? If you'd rather have someone on the phone with you, fill it out with you, that's probably a really good idea, because I did get stuck on a couple things. I just had to Google them and figure them out, and Reddit did help me, but I would actually rather someone who works for unemployment tell me what the heck I'm doing, so that I don't get stuck and so that I understand what I'm doing. But yes, please call someone if you don't have the correct information, or if you're stuck or you don't have the correct documentation. Call them. They're there to help. And this is where we come to the end of the video. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I really sincerely hope that this was actually helpful to you. I know it can be a little frustrating because there isn't a lot of information out there, and that's why I wanted to make this video, because I just couldn't find answers. No one could help. And also, the information that is out there, especially on YouTube, is very dated and it's very specific to the time during the pan pizza. So trying to find updated information is actually trickier than it should be, especially if you're in an unemployment situation for the very first time and you have no idea what to do or where to go or how it works. It's important that we put a lot of information out there so that people understand, so that there's less questions and frustration, so that it becomes a smoother process. So I really hope this helps someone. If you have any further questions or comments, or if you have some really good information, please put that down in the comments below. We need to help each other out because it's not a fun thing to go through at all. Unemployment is not fun. It's frustrating. It's kind of scary. It's a very unsure time of your life, and it's always great to have people who understand. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all the best. And I'm probably going to make another part of this video with further information as things change for me, because I have some really big changes coming up soon that will probably affect unemployment. So we'll go ahead and learn those things, and I'll put another video together so that you have further information on what the heck to do when it comes to blah blah blah. But again, thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out those other 2 videos about my initial unemployment when I got laid off, and then my 2-month update about where I was and what I had learned so far. And also, don't forget to subscribe. I mean, why not? I'm here to give you information and to help you through this potentially tumultuous time and make it a little bit smoother sailing for you. So until next time, bye.